of myself. The question is, let's ask the question, why, to what extent are these slides visible with you? Hello?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, okay. No, because this is first time I'm sharing these
Yes,
slides
sir.
on
They are
virtual
visible. Yes, sir.
communication. Okay, thank you. Now, I ask questions, such questions time and again. To what extent can I call myself a professional teacher? Because this question has haunted me time and again. Because in the beginning, I was really satisfied when I got university position. Then I was teaching, and Banuji was probably the first batch, I guess, 2016 to 2 or 3. One, to what extent can I call myself a professional teacher? I request you to ask this question of yourself too. Next, do I only teach or do I also read? I have seen many teachers, and I was one of them in the beginning, who teach more and read less. Next, do I only teach and read, or do I also research? It means teaching is there, reading is there. Do I research? Do I carry out conduct research of what I have been doing? Am I aware of what is going in my profession? Am I aware of what is happening in the classroom? Next, do I only teach, read, and research, or do I also write and share? Means there are many cases that people carry out certain research and they get certain fund and even promotion, but they do not write that as a paper or an article and share. Then from these questions, I can assume that teaching, reading, researching, and writing constitute my teaching profession. And this is what is the prime concern of today's presentation. When I talk about research, this is a broad field. It's too broad to capture in one presentation. But today, what I'm dealing with is search for research topics. Only how to problematize and how to source, how to locate the source of the issue. Where should we find the issue? Where does the issue come from? This is my focus today, because this belongs to the pre-research research phase, and more than this, it is something like the tip of the iceberg, because much lies beyond the tip. The outline, setting the context. When we talk about setting context, I'll be relating the issues to my profession and my academic reading and writing areas. Then we will problematize the areas. Means we will, because researching itself is problematizing a particular area. Then we'll talk about that, and we'll identify some sources of topic for research, and then funneling down the issue, some rules of thumb. Setting the context, I will present some cases from my own professional context. When I say professional context, then I'm basically an ELT teacher or teacher educator. One, then I often wear another hat, that is a translator, and then another hat is I have served the university in a capacity of syllabus designer and course designer and textbook contributor. These are the different hats I often wear as a uh, as a, as a teacher in university. And my assumption is that the cases that I present here might serve as the springboard, means the base for sharing issues and topics from your areas. Means you can relate these cases to your own context and might help you to generate topics for your research. Searching for a topic, then you might have some query. Who am I addressing now? I'm addressing particularly two groups. One, those are the prospective researchers, means those who are still doing their master's degree and are on the way to carrying out the research. One, and next, those teachers who want to carry out research and publish, and they want to get connected to the wider academic community, particularly ELT community. If you ask me, the problem that I face in research is, what should I research? Where should I find the issue? What is that area that I really want to dig into? That is the main problem that I have always faced while writing article, while that particular empirical article, and while um, submitting my proposal for research. It takes months and months to identify the particular researchable area. Then let me quote then one citation here. We may find ourselves revisiting the choice, modifying the approach, and changing the title. It means when you start carrying out a research, the finding a topic is seldom a simple matter, because in the beginning we have a sort of euphoria. Wow, this is the area actually I love to explore. And once we invest some 5 6 days, then we realize that this is the area that I should discard. Then again we will go to another area, and this happened all the time. Then what is that we are researching? Why do you want, when we say I'm researching something, when we say I'm carrying out a particular research, when we say I want to research in that area, then what is that we want to research? First, the notion of research is itself is guided by the assumption is that something is missing. Something is missing and something is lacking and something still lies unexplored, so that I want to understand that. I research because I think that something is missing. Something I can find it out, because I assume that the question is answerable. The problem can be solved because the issue can be explored and understood. This is not what I'm saying here is not applicable to academic researcher. This should be the part of everyday teaching. You might be familiar, as earlier Chetnath ji was talking about post. Post method pedagogy always gives emphasis on the role of teacher as a researcher. This is what Richard Smith and other people are working on. Action research means research. The teacher is the authentic person to carry out the research. Why? Because it is the teacher who faces the problem in everyday teaching. It is the teacher who brings out the solution, and it is the teacher who knows where teaching goes right and where teaching goes wrong. Then teacher is not only the consumer of knowledge produced by the experts, but also mainly the producer knowledge. Then it is a sort of when we incorporate, when we realize that we are also the researcher, then that might be a sort of emancipation on the part of teacher. Now this presentation has two main sections. First section is problematizing the areas, and second, sourcing the topic. I'll begin with the first one now. What is research? Is a very common way. We can say that it is the two-way process, or the twin processes of problem posing and problem solving processes. Normally, we are taught how to solve the problem, but we should always teach our students, and we should be aware of the fact that we should know how to pose the problem itself. It's not only solving the problem given by somebody else. Here, the researcher himself, the teacher himself, poses the problem and then tries to answer this question that he or she has raised with evidence. Then what are the areas that we can problematize? We can pose problems about. This 6 areas I have presented it schematically. Sorry, yeah. If you look at this sort of chakra, you can see 6 areas. Let me begin with doctrine. Doctrine means assumptions, values. This is what the previous that session was on: values, assumptions, and theoretical instance that guide, shape, prescribe, and proscribe. Proscribe means control the particular academic and professional field. It means, as in the field of ELT, we can say all the language learning theories, particularly second language learning theories, and English language teaching theories serve as the doctrine, and they keep changing. And as teacher and as a researcher, we have every right to question these these assumptions. Then practice, academic and professional. I'll deal each in brief later. Input, what goes into the courses. Output, what comes out of that. Cause and effect relationship, stakeholders views and perception. Means these are the areas where we can problematize. Problematize means you do not accept them as you don't take them for granted. You don't accept because it is there. You question why, how, when, is it, or is it so? Just a minute. Yeah. Let me proceed with first doctrine. As doctrine, I said the ideas, theories, and beliefs. Long back in Jaira Sir's class, when he was teaching this Crescent's theory, it says that L1 is equal to L2. I think all of you remember that. And then simply, and Crescent claims that he got this idea from mathematical equation or science from something like that. When you say L1 is equal to L2, it means mathematically this is wrong. I questioned, because in mathematically A is equal to B means B is equal to A. It means when we say L1 is equal to L2, then L2 should be equal to L1, which is never possible. Means, look, we can simply, this is not big problem that I posed. It's not a big question that I raised. Simply, it struck me. Is it right? Is it right that when we say L1 is equal to L2, means this is questioning the doctrine. And then I give you some questions, some example. For example, is the use of mother tongue detrimental to learning ESL? Look, this has been a sort of taboo in private school, that if the teachers are found using first French language, particularly Nepali, and they are liable for punishment. This is then, is it so? Is it detrimental? One, has English acquired the ESL status in Nepal? Recently, I read one article by Ram Giri that in Asian ELD something Asian journal. Then he claims that English has acquired the second language status in Nepal, but I doubt. I don't know. I might have some questions. You might have this question. It's difficult to claim this. Then we can research in that area. Does translation facilitate learning English vocabulary? These are the some questions that can we can pose against or to inquire into the established ideas, theories, and beliefs. Then second is a particular doctrine-related questions originate mainly from theoretical literature. When we read theoretical literature, the theories and these methods, then we can find out the gap in such areas. Then next area that we can problematize is professional and academic practice. Every day, we can ask, what am I doing? Am I doing what I'm expected to do as a teacher? Doctrine is actualized through practice. It is brought to the classroom through practice, and most fertile area for generating questions. For example, approaches. Many people questioned this audiolingual approach. Then it was sent to Siberia. Now it is in banishment. And then later, this communicative approaches came. They are also being questioned. Other methods are coming. Posts are coming. Methods, procedure, technique, activities, resources. We can raise questions about it. Let me give you one example. How is reading taught at the secondary level? Let me give you one example of let me give more information on this question. 3 years back, when I was supervising B.Ed prospect, that student teachers teaching B.Ed in reading courses, that question struck me, and then I started observing 20 or more classes and started taking notes and recording, and then I published an article. This article has been recently published from the UK. Simply, I was in the classroom, and this question struck me: how these people are teaching reading courses? Are they teaching the way they are expected to teach? Then this question struck me, and I carry out and research. And what are the different resources used in teaching grammar to B.Ed students? What are the different resources? For example, are the digital resources being used? Are only the traditional paper resources, text resources are used? Then we move to next. Third one is nature of input. What goes inside? In this area, we can raise questions: quality, quantity, and sources of input. We can raise questions in terms of recent theories, global practice, and students' present and future needs. Let me give you some examples. What types of text, informative, expressive, vocative, are prioritized to enhance reading comprehension of secondary students? If you were in yesterday's, what's that, panel discussion about reading pedagogy, this is what we were focusing on. Our main issue was that, or most of the, we three, including DNG also, even other participants, express our dissatisfaction with the the exclusive or the excessive use of informative text in university level students, level for university students. And then we said we need more expressive text. Then why don't we carry out one research? What in B.Ed level courses, what types of texts are being prioritized by B.Ed curriculum under faculty of education? Are these texts more informative, more expressive? Vocative means this more like advertisement type of text. Next question: what are the different sources of reading text, including B.Ed reading general English? This was the interest, my interest in the earlier, and I also wanted to write on that. I wanted to find out dominates what are the main sources of text for this reading course. For example, fiction, non-fiction, even within non-fiction, science and technology, and other which areas are being used as the main sources of. Then we can also ask question: what type of English, which variety of English is being prioritized in school level, rather than school, university level English courses? Because these days we also want Nepalese English and other varieties of English in the courses. What is the quality in terms of grammar, accuracy, and cultural appropriateness of spoken text used at secondary level? This has been a major question, a major issue, because whenever we talk about the inclusion of this, spoken text and listening text, people say that we need the native speakers as the sources for this spoken text, but others say that why spoken and no, there is native only. Even non-native can be the source. Then we can say, why do people prefer this and why not? Now, output. We begin from doctrine, and then professional practice, then input. Now we are fourth, nature of output. What comes out of this process? Again, quality, quantity, and features of language produced by ESL, EFL students. Whatever language teachers are producing, we are producing. For this, when I was um, when I just started my university career, then I was not satisfied with my presentation in the classroom. Then what I did, I started recording my own presentation for 2 or 3 times a week. Then I started analyzing my English. Then was it grammatically accurate? Was it fluent? Was it comprehensible, like that? And likewise, we can also record with the due permission from the teachers English. We can record our students English and then analyze. We can have 3 types of research here. that can be descriptive, evaluative, and interpretive. Let me give the example of each. What types of discourse connectors are used by B.Ed English students? This is particularly when we say discourse connector, obviously written. What I found is our students can write grammatically correct sentences to some extent, but they lack coherence, cohesion. Then we can research in that area, this area. What is the level of reading comprehension of B.Ed students? Why do teachers use Nepali in the classroom?
त्यही
This
त
is
लिङ्क
interesting.
पठाउन थियो हेर्ने उसै न
Yeah, this is interesting because uh, when uh, when there is no supervisor or where there is no principal or coordinator in the classroom, or when they are not passing by the class, teachers turn to Nepali or other language in the Tarai. But when the administration is there and they immediately switch to English, why is that happening? Because teachers feel that English is Nepali is useful in certain contexts in the English classroom. Then why don't we carry out? This is the interpretive research. Why? Fifth one, stakeholders' perceptions or views. All agents involved in language program are stakeholders who have right to question, who can contribute the program. Stakeholder perceptions, views, they are really important to evaluate the strength and weaknesses of different aspects of education. Yeah, obviously, because sometimes this is the practice in our context. We rarely ask our students whether they are satisfied with what they have been taught, whether what type of perception, what perception do they have regarding the textbook they are dealing. Because it means interesting thing is that we always push those who are directly involved to the periphery, and there is a sort of a top-down approach. As a result, students' views, teachers' views are always pushed to periphery, and teachers, students remain invisible. Then why don't we ask such questions? What are teachers' views on the textbook prescribed at the B.Ed first year? How do trainee teachers perceive grammar course offered to them? Then we can also ask questions to explore our stakeholders' needs, what they need, expectations, and levels of satisfaction. Finally, cause and effect relationship. Obviously, this is experimental in nature. Students to understand nature of these are the questions we can raise to understand the relationship between cause and effect, and in research language we call it the relationship between independent and dependent variables. I avoid these jargons for the time being. Then we can problematize the causal relationship between innovative materials. These days, we all are behind this task-based, particularly project-based learning. Is it actually, or is it just like it will also have the similar fate like this communicative approach had in the beginning? We don't know. And why don't we carry one research the effect of the project work? What is the impact of project work on students' writing achievement? What is the effect of pre-reading vocabulary on reading comprehension? What is the effect of translation in teaching vocabulary? And Vinod Little sir once long back carried out research on in this area, and he came with the conclusion that translation as a strategy, particularly to teach vocabulary, is a sort of panacea, is a ramband, because it is the best way in his finding. Means he found out the relationship between translation and this vocabulary learning. Or first, before I move to next, I simply let me recapitulate what I said so far. I begin with this doctrine and classroom practice, professional practice, then input, output, and views, plus this cause and effect relationship. Let me move to second part, sourcing the topic. When I say sourcing here, I have used source as the verb, means how to use particular area as the source, means what are the different sources that we can explore. Okay, here also we have mainly 5, and including the last one can also be included 6. I'll talk about एक्सपिरियन्सियल जोन, जहाँ पुगे रवि वहाँ जहाँ नपुगे जहाँ नपहुँचे रवि अथवा जहाँ नपुगे रवि वहाँ पुगे कवि मात्रै भन्यो। तर मलाई के लाग्छ भने जहाँ नपुगे कवि वहाँ पुगे अनुभवी, अनुभवी अझै माथि हुँदो रहेछ, कवि नभए नि हुन्छ, कविभन्दा माथि अनुभवी क्यान बी द पर्सन हु हेज एक्सपिरियन्स क्यान बी क्यान हेभ वाइडर नलेज देन द पर्सन हु रिड्स एन्ड राइट्स। मिन्स experiential zone is really important. Then I'll move to existing literature. There will be two types of literature. I'll talk about this: consultation with expert instructor, prescription from expert supervisor, interaction with practitioner, finally combination of two or more. Why experience is so important? Because as a teacher, we every day we have different experiences. Sometimes it goes, our class goes best, and then we feel, yeah, this is we have a sort of satisfaction. Then why don't we research into that, why today's class was so more satisfactory, more effective than the previous one or the other classes? That can be one area. And then sometimes you or I often feel frustrating when I always have the sense of dissatisfaction. Oh, today's class went very bad, and next day I think I will do better. Again, same thing goes, and then I question why. Then let me come to these points. Our professional experience, workplace experience, reflect critically on job related issues. No, it's not only Jagir. Teaching is not only Jagir. Teaching should be our life, because unless there is deep passion for learning, then the teaching always happens less effectively. Then case, I'll give one case here. These are all real cases. These are not what I just made out of my mind. Case one: some of my master's students questioned the relevance of the grammar course offered to them. It was 2066. Our Prithvi Bhatta's batch, but Prithvi Bhatta is there in Far Western University now. One of the students questioned me, what is the relevance of this English grammar course to us? That was that person is in now, this friend is in now Gulmi or somewhere. Then I was shocked. It was first class, and first class became so frustrated because I had no answer. Why actually? And I simply said, because Resamji, this is the course they have given us, assigned us. We are assigned to teach this course. That's why I'm here. And he said that we should raise the, because I don't think that this course is going to help us. This. He had so many reservation about the course. Then I wanted to find out my students' views and grammar course offered to them. Then I noticed the gap. I'll go to that later. Then I prepared a research proposal and applied to UGC. Luckily, I got the fund, and that fund, and then I completed research, and it has been published as an article, and the funding is also prescribed in master's first year, first semester course in grammar. It means, look, simple question, a simple question, and I'm always grateful to, I'm always, I always bow to my students, because that's why I always do my namaste to student first before my student do, because my students have taught me a lot. They have given me a lot of chances to learn. Had this question not been raised in the classroom, I would have never thought in this area. And actually, and I explored, I wrote, I carried out research, I wrote article, and this has been a very useful area for me also. Next case, I noticed the gap between what teachers were studying and how they were actually teaching at school. This is what happened in teaching grammar. Teaching grammar was in the course they were taught one way to teach, communicative, something inductive. But in the classroom, 90% teachers I found were teaching deductively. Then I wanted to carry out research, and then I conducted research, and again it was self initiated research. No fund was there, and again I published one article on this. It means our experience can be a rich source of knowledge. Next, you can also reflect as a student in the field. For example, when you think why English was so difficult, why English vocabulary was so difficult for me to acquire. You can ask on your own experience. My experience is difficult, a bit different because I'm a science dropout student. That's why I often, when I dropped science and then joined English, and I often thought why science was so difficult for me in Nepali. Then when I became a student of translation, I wanted to research into this area. My master's thesis is in science, and then I studied Nepali English science terms and found that Nepali scientific terms in class 9 and 10 were so wrongly, so mistakenly, and so let's say what do we say that in translation we say they were misinterpreted and mistranslated. Then this is my master's thesis. Next one, explore theoretical and empirical literature. For this, experience is important but not sufficient because we all have limitations. We need to know what other people have also experienced. Unless we explore others' experiences, our experience remain incomplete. For this, we need to read around the subject of our interest. Read around, read a lot. Then but read with a critical eyes. Theoretical literature. When first source of topic is theoretical literature. Case while digging into translation literature, I was interested in finding out the approach to literary translation adopted by Nepali uh, translator into English, translated into English. And then this question hit me many times, and then this became the thesis of my MA. MA thesis was because of this, not from experience, but from theoretical literature. And empirical literature. Then empirical literature means the research work, articles, journal articles, and monographs um, published in based on the research and in the area we are related to. Go through the list of research topic and complete it under our department or published in Delta Journal and other journals. Reports of researchers published in journals often conclude. I always look for that. I always, whenever I don't find the relevant topic, then I try to find. First I locate the relevant article, then I read the conclusion, and there is the last paragraph is there, suggestion for future research, sometimes 2 lines or 3 lines. Then I begin from that. Each international article, well researched article, well documented article concludes with a suggestion for future research, and then this can be used as the tone to move ahead. The issue is still unanswered, not resolved, not covered in the study, can be employed, can be utilized as the research for our purpose. We can take the already carried out research one step further. I'll give one example again. There is Williams, Raymond. No, it's not somebody. Williams. Williams carried out a research in the British context. He studied the approaches of teaching grammar in the and activities used by the teachers in British context. I read one article by Williams. Then I wanted to test whether our teachers are doing that in the same way or in a different way. Then I picked up Williams' issue and modify it according to our context. Then I carried out one research in grammar within the area suggested by Williams. Third one, interaction with practitioners. We also ourselves are practitioners. Interaction has a lot of benefit to offer to researchers, a valuable source of insights, and that might feed into the topic later. Whenever some ideas strike my mind, but when I'm not sure whether I can research into this area and what can be the better area issue, then I call my friends, I colleagues, particularly rather than colleagues, I interact with my previous one time or previous students, because they read more than I guess I do these days, and my colleagues. I'll give one example. The real case. interaction with teacher trainers and ideas of teaching reading in Nepalese countries. In 2015 or 16, I was invited to read Nepal by Jivan Karki and Kapil, this KP Ghimre, my students, previous students, and then they wanted me to have interaction on reading culture in Nepal. Then when we were interacting there, actually I was there to share my ideas, and I learned so much from them. I then I found that there are different zones of reading. There are different areas where we can engage our strengths. Then from that I generated a topic title. The title is different reading zones for English readers and English learners. And luckily, I developed a proposal for TESOL 2018, and more luckily, that was accepted. And the paper won the TESOL International Award of the Year. Look, then because of that paper, I got a chance to go to Chicago. Why I'm saying that? Simply, look, the topic simply cropped up when I was talking with, but I was very aware. Whenever I listen to somebody else, whenever I'm interacting, I'm always aware. What can be the issue in that talk. It's not simply, yes, you said, I often say to my student, don't say yes because I say so. भन्नेमा तपाईँले यस भन्नु पर्दैन किनकि मैले भन्नेकोमा धेरै ग्याप हुन सक्छ. Why don't you contemplate on that? Likewise, I listened to them sincerely, and then the topic came up. Next, consultation with expert instructor or supervisor. This can be useful for MPhil and PhD level, and even master's level researchers. Instructor, expert, supervisor might suggest the topic of interest. Sometimes this has happened. When I said I wanted to carry out research in translation, and Bhatta sir gave me so many topics for 6 months, but none of them worked, and I decided on my own. And later he accepted that. It means, but that was food for thought all the time, provoking. Can you do on that? Can you go for that? Why don't you try on that? But we should, as a supervisor, I'm speaking as a research supervisor now, we should never ever prescribe the topic. We can simply say, if I were you, I would. Only suggestion, not prescription. Because if we simply pick up the topic that is suggested by prescribed by somebody else, later we find this is not the area of our interest, and we cannot sustain in that area. We might give up or abort in the middle. Case. A student was interested in working in English used in law. He was looking for space between law and English. MIT student waiting for thesis year student, LLB. He was doing his LLB, and he also said that later he will join this advocacy, but wants to find out an area where he can find the interface between legal English and ELT. Then I suggested this, discuss organization of English legal text, but unfortunately it dropped, and then maybe because I was prescribing rather than in suggesting, and this didn't work. But this can be a very good area to research. Those MIT, if you are there MIT and doing LLB and in the thesis year, you can go in this area, discuss organization of legal text. Because potential supervisor can be a sounding board or resource. Sounding board means the person to whom we can consult, and the person who can question us, the person who give us suggestion. That can be the, then there is mutual benefit, because mutual benefit, even the supervisor can learn a lot from the student. The supervisor can help to identify research areas, but the supervisor should possess what, where, and how knowledge. This is what I have experienced in university. It's very, it's very, very, it's a professional thing, but I feel so sad to say that many times our master's level students in MA and MA both are misguided by university teachers, because whenever students come up with the new ideas and they say no, you cannot work in this area, it doesn't work, mainly because they have limited knowledge in that area where the student is interested, and they fear to go into in that area, because if the student brings the new area and they have to update themselves and they have to do something additional reading, and they avoid that. This is a really a malpractice, and the teachers should not do that. The more new areas come to the student come with, the more welcoming the student, there should be more, warm-heartedly welcome. Means we should never ever bar our students from bringing with the coming with the new areas. Because the supervisor need to explore the potential areas. For sometimes teachers have to do that for students, and for this, I often read for my students, and then so that I can be abreast of them. Otherwise, I'll be lagging behind my students. For the last one, prescription from the instructor. See, more like earlier, but earlier it was just recommendation, but here prescription. The instructor might prescribe the topic. One example, Prakash, the student who had MA background, already MA, and was doing M8 at Tahachal campus. And he had a literary background, and he said that he was not satisfied with Nepali poems translated by the British scholar named Michael Hart. I think you know he is well recognized and a famous Nepali English translator, and his contribution is commendable. But this fellow, my student, was complaining, he wasn't satisfied, and then but he had no ideas how to inquire into the issue. He always in the classroom, also in translation class, he said, look, Michael Hart translation you always appreciate, but the Sarangi has been translated like that, and Chotaro has been deleted, and I'm not satisfied. Then I said, then what do you want to do? I want to carry out a research. Then Prakash went in that area, but I also had a similar feeling when I was doing MA. I also had a similar feeling, and I uh, took a tentative topic to my department, and they simply rejected, because they thought that a translation was not so much worthy of researching. But later again, I went to move to on another area of translation. But I had thought of researching in this issue when I was an MA student, but I could not do for some reasons. Then I found he was the right person to do this. Then we did that. The supervisor, then Prakash, he completed, and I don't know where he these days, but he was, I know his work was well appreciated by the research committee as well. And the supervisor may suggest a specific topic, but should not impose. The motive should be for the mutual benefit. And finally, combination of two or more means we can combine. It's not mutually exclusive. One can be integrated. One can be combined with the others. These are the sources that of possible topic. Then I'll take only another 10 minutes, only 10 or 15 minutes now. How to funnel down the issue, how to narrow down, because it's broad. We begin from experience, we begin from reading theoretical literature, we begin from interaction, but how to narrow down? Funnel यसलाई सोलीमा कसरी हाल्ने भन्ने कुरामा चाहिँ the research topic is open for and subject to modification or further refinement. Case, this is interesting in my case as well. My PhD topic has been modified in a number of times from the beginning, and sometimes I forget what was in the beginning, but it has remained the same in terms of key areas. The key area, literary translation, has not been changed. It is still there, but it has been modified and time and again. It means we should be ready to modify it. That we should not stick that this was the initial form of initial title, then I should not modify it. As we go on reading, as we go on interacting, as we go on reflecting, as we go on exploring, we find that this area and this topic should be approached from that angle. It goes on like that. But break down, and then we should know how to break down the topic into smaller components in the form of research questions. I'll come to this later. This is whether it is visible or not. Look, first one on the top, area of interest, reading around in the literature. First one again. Then from literature, reading, we generate a short list of topics, discussion with colleagues, consultation with instructor, supervisor. Then choosing a particular topic, reading around in literature again, we choose a topic and again read. Reading goes throughout. It is given on the left hand side. Refining the research topic, turning the topic into research question, and then these questions are operationalized as objectives. Then you can see the arrow: critical and creative reading of literature plus consultation on consultation with instructor, supervisor, or they go throughout. For example, while reading, while generating a short list, while choosing a particular topic, while refining research topic, while turning the research topic into questions, while operationalizing. Reading is sometimes we mistake, literature review for one step. Literature review prevails throughout the work until we face our this presentation, this thesis presentation. Till then, until we submit our final hard bind, this reading goes throughout. Some rules of thumb, because we all have our own experiences, and experiences are always unique, but we can generate some similarities between them. There are some rules of thumb that might work to generate topic and finalize the title. Topic and title, I think you know that. Topic means the particular area, and title is what goes on the top of that thesis. As a researcher, I ask myself, as a researcher, what do I want to research? What? Why? How can I get the information? Methodology. Where do I get the information? Field. How does it contribute to my professional and academic career? The benefit I can reap from my research work. And where do I see myself after the completion of this work? What will happen to my career? Will there be some growth? यो काम गरिसकेपछि मैले आफूलाई कहाँ पाउँछु होला? Then I might be presenting paper in the conference. I might be publishing an article. That article might be counted for my promotion, and then okay, that might work. This is really important incentive that you need to generate for yourself. Otherwise, there is every likelihood that we might give up in the middle. Where am I going to publish its finding? I often think that if at the moment I'm researching small the self-initiated research, what is the relationship between translator and each author or her author? Then I'm collecting data. At the same time, I'm looking for the possible journals where I can publish them. Then it means you need to think, ask questions. We need to ask questions about area, about field, about methodology, about its contribution, and we need to envisage ourselves where our position after the completion. That there might not be giant leap in our we not have the giant leap from one step to another, but there is a little bit addition, something is added to your career. If not, at least you can have sort of satisfaction after the completion of the work. That also sort of benefit. When I put the supervisor hat, earlier I was talking as a researcher, but when I put on the researcher supervisor hat, it means when I serve as a supervisor, then as a supervisor, the questions I often or always ask my students: what do you want to research? Fine. Why are you interested in it? This is the pivotal question that I always ask. Why? Only to fulfill the master's degree requirement? No, that is not going to work. You need to have some intrinsic interest, intrinsic values should be there. How do you think it will contribute to your academic career? What will happen after this? You will get 40 marks, 45 marks. Then what is more? Will it lead you to MPhil? Will it lead you to particular this area? How do you think it will contribute to your professional career? Will it contribute to your professional career as a teacher? Where do you see yourself after completion of work? Envision yourself. Now imagine that you are presenting this is finding next year this time in a NELTA conference. There are 40-50 people listening to you. Look, then that might motivate them. Keep a professional journal. This is very important, I guess. I don't know how many of you have the habit of keeping a journal or diary. This days I rarely make diary entries, but normally journal writing, because for the 2 years, for 2.5 years, I'm on. Once I stopped teaching because of this my PhD, I've stopped writing journal. Otherwise, every day returning from the college, I would write 5 to 10 minutes what I experienced in the classroom, and then I keep journal all these journals. Later, I reflect on these ideas, these things, and from these in journal entries, I often pick the issue for my research. Most of the academic articles that I have published come from my this journal. Or I don't call it journal. It's just simple diary. It's not so professional, because journal is for professional purpose. It can be for public purpose. Is my private one. Then I always suggest my student write 200 words every day. Read 5 pages a day. Write 200 words every day. Our original thoughts, because when you write, then you are writing your original thoughts, ideas, and there is free flow of ideas without hindrance. You are writing your experiences, and your experience. What is the difference between knowledge and experience? Simple. When experiences are documented and supported with some evidence, that becomes knowledge. Means we all are the storehouse of knowledge, but we have wasted our experience. We experience as a student, experience as a teacher, experience as a trainer. Our experiences have potential to become knowledge that we can contribute to our ELT or whatever, our professional community. And let's always value our own experience before we read others' book. We need to read, but this is what Buddha has said: counting others' cows. I don't have time to talk about this kissa, but simply we ourselves have a lot of issues within us, but we have simply neglected. And our new learning, whatever we learn something, for example, if you learn something, if you have learned something from today's interaction, why don't we write at least 5 or 10 minutes spontaneously, so that today's learning will be documented. The things that are relevant to you or to us, the things that benefit the larger community, the things that help transformation. Earlier session transformation, and I just listened for 5 minutes, and some insightful some insightful ideas have struck my mind, and I might contemplate on them and write on them. The things to initiate discussion, the things directly related to theory and practice. It means if we make the habit of reading, after interacting, after leaving the classroom, or after coming from the school, college, that might be a rich resource for our future research topics. This additional, but I have simply taken from another source. Similar one. Brainstorm for your ideas again. Ensure that the topic is manageable and the material is available. This is very important. Sometimes we become so ambitious that, and then we think I can do it, and without envisage, let's say speculating the effort it requires, and then in the middle we feel that we are overwhelmed by it, then we simply abort it. Make a list of keywords in that area. For example, if you are translating literary translation, you can list keywords and then search, use these keywords to search articles in Google. Be flexible. Define your topic as a focus research questions. Research and read. Simply, reading is also an important part, like reflecting. Reading, reflect. What happens is, from reading we get information. Information is important but not sufficient. Information, then reflection, from that comes insight, and then that insight can be ours. Before I end, the art of writing is the art of discovering what you believe. It's not only Gustav Flaubert. He is not, though he has talked of this quotation or saying is mainly related to literature, but I can uh, uh, I can relate this to academic field also. The art of writing is the art of discovering what you believe. Means uh, we all researchers have a sort of assumption or belief before we start researching. Means the when we start um, researching and then writing, we are discovering ourselves while discovering others. Stephen King, the famous this American novelist, one of the most celebrated writers of this century. If you don't have time to read, you don't have time or the tool to write. Simple as that. Means when we say I'm busy and I don't have time, most of the students often say that, sir, I'm busy, or we say, we teachers also say that I have no time. Then if you have no time to read, we have no time to write. Again, Flaubert, read in order to live. Read in order to live. Then we should say that research, as teachers, research in order to survive academically. For academic survival, researching is important, because research compels us to read. Sometimes when we have no purpose to read, we might not read it. And it's obviously, yesterday also I was saying that human being is a ruthlessly pragmatic creature. यति धेरै चाहिँ व्यावहारिक प्राणी हो कि उसलाई चाहिँदैन भने उसले अटोमेटिकली दिमागले हटाइहाल्छ, चाहिन्छ भने जसरी पनि याद गर्छ. Like that, when we are engaged in research, we are bound to read, we are bound to explore, and in this exploration we explore not only the outside world, we also explore inside world. And before that, and it is one of the ways of these days, we often say teaches us autonomy. And I guess reading, researching and writing is the most important aspect of teacher autonomy. Kumara values that notion of post pedagogy and teacher autonomy and is going to work. It can work only if the teacher works as a researcher. Okay, thank you for your patience, and thank you for bearing with me for nearly